My name is Rex, and welcome to the latest episode of G-Rex Customs. The Blood Angels, noble sons of Sanguinius, these brave and gallant defenders of humanity are afflicted by a terrible curse. Like the vampires of old, they have an uncontrollable need for human blood, one they must constantly fight in order to maintain their visage as honorable protectors of humanity. And, because this is Warhammer 40k, one terrible curse just isn't enough. So, when their gene father Sanguinius, the Emperor's great angel, was slain by his brother's hands at the end of the Horus Heresy, the trauma of that death infected his entire bloodline. Now, all Space Marines of the 9th Bloodline must fight an ever-growing darkness that threatens to consume them from the inside. Should they fall to this black rage, the Battle Brothers will be transformed into violent, mindless killing machines, seeing themselves as their slain father and all others as their treacherous brother Horus, barring those also affected by the condition. These brothers are gathered together into the so-called Death Company and thrown into the thickest of combat as a last resort to break enemy lines and offer the lost brothers one last chance at a glorious and meaningful death. When a brother captain falls to the Black Rage, they do the exact same thing, except the Marine gets to keep all his fancy war gear. As you know, letting the mindless berserker you're sending to die horribly carry a bunch of chapter relics is a great idea, and I'm happy to be a part of it. As you can probably guess from the intro, on this episode of G-Rex Customs, I'm going to be building a Death Company captain. While I am a big fan of the new Blood Angels captain, I feel his Death Company counterpart leaves a lot to be desired. While painting a normal Marine black is just kind of how the Death Company works now, I feel it doesn't really work for this captain. He looks too noble and coherent in my opinion for what's supposed to be a berserker, lost to a supernatural affliction of violence and rage. So, my conversion, I'm going to go for more of a dynamic advancing pose, like the Marine is going towards the enemy, ready for a fight. If you want to replicate this conversion, the kits you're going to need are the Blood Angels Captain, the new Primaris Blood Angels Upgrade Sprue, a box of Assault Intercessors, a box of Sanguinary Guard, and the Space Marine Company Heroes Kit. While that might seem like a lot, in reality, we're not going to be using most of the pieces from these kits. From the captain, we're only going to be taking the Death Mask helmet. So you could probably leave that kit out entirely and use a different helmet if you prefer. But I think the Death Mask just adds something special. Additionally, we're only going to be using the Eviscerator from the Upgrade Sprue and one Sanguinary Guard body. So you could likely get those separately. I got the Sanguinary Guard body I used for this kit bash for about $12 off of eBay, so you could likely do something similar. Finally, I'm only going to be using a shoulder pad and a backpack from the Company Heroes kit, so you could swap those out for something that you already have, if you don't feel like getting another kit. Finally, before we begin, I just want to say, I'm building and painting this guy as a Flesh Terror. They're my favorite Blood Angel successor chapter, and they're the ones I'm building an army for. But everything I do for this conversion is applicable to basically all Blood Angel successors, except maybe the Lamenters. No one wants to be a Lamenter. To start, we're going to take the Sanguinary Guard body. As I stated earlier, I got this one separately off of eBay, so it was already off the sprue and cleaned of nubs and bolt lines. That saves us a significant amount of time. So, we're going to be starting with a few modifications to this body. First, remove the connection for the jump pack off the back of the torso. We're not going to be giving this guy a jump pack, so we don't need that. And this will make it easier to attach the normal backpack later. Then, we're going to cut away the loincloth off of the belt, as we're not going to be needing it, and will only get in the way. Cut it away with your clippers, and then clean up the cut with your X-Acto knife. From there, we're going to cut away the body and legs for an assault intercessor. I wanted my captain to have a dynamic pose, like he was advancing towards his enemy. So, I went with the body that's stepping forward. After cutting away the pieces, I cleaned them up with my X-Acto knife. Then, I took out my hobby saw and cut away the top part of the intercessor torso just above the belt. I did it without having the two pieces glued together first. You could likely do it the other way, but you'd need to be more careful and make sure that the two pieces were dry before you start cutting. Decide to do it the way I did. Once you have the two pieces cut away, you can glue them together, and it should be left with just the pelvis. Setting those aside, we can move on to the sanguinary guard body. For this, we're going to cut away the belt. Remember to try to get as close to the belt as you can, because we want to preserve the ab detailing on the armor as much as possible. From there, you can glue the front and back of the torso together and compare them to the assault intercessor pelvis we have. Clean the two sections to improve the connection and make it as smooth as you can. To help with this, I'm going to attach the assault intercessor legs to the pelvis we have cut out, so I have a better idea of how the whole model's lower body will look. Once I'm sure I like the connection, I'm going to use sprue goo, which is Tamiya thin plastic glue mixed with chunks of cut up sprue, to attach the legs to the torso. Sprue goo is great for stuff like this, since it fills in gaps, and when it dries it's basically the same material as the model. which means that you can sand it if you need to, or even clean it up slightly with your hobby knife. Once the upper and lower body are attached, we can set it aside to dry. After it's dry, I notice that there's a small hole on the right side of the model. That's okay, since we need to attach a holster to him anyway. I'm going to use one of the large heavy bolt pistol holsters from the Assault Intercessor kit to cover the hole and so that the model has a legal loadout. Because the holster is big, it can count as either a heavy bolt pistol or an Inferno pistol, depending on how I want to run this model. From there, we can move on to the arms. We're going to be using the Eviscerator from the Blood Angels Primaris upgrade sprue. This heavy two-handed chainsword will serve as the model's primary weapon. This Eviscerator was a big reason I wanted to do this kit bash in the first place. I love big two-handed swords, and I especially love the idea of a Space Marine captain consumed by the Black Rage going into battle with a big two-handed chain blade. Also, as this model is a flesh terror, I feel the Eviscerator especially fits. And who knows, maybe this is where Gabriel Seth ended up after he was cut from the 10th edition codex. As for the legality of the weapon, you could run this Eviscerator as a normal chainsword, but I think I'm going to be running it as a relic weapon. Especially since the Eviscerator has a bone attached to it and several ornate blood drops that really make it look like it's some kind of fancy chapter relic. Either way, we're going to have a captain with a big ass chainsword. And can anyone really complain about that? Once you have the Eviscerator and corresponding arms cut off the Primaris upgrade sprue, clean them with your X-Acto knife, glue them together, and set them aside to dry. Once that's complete, we're going to move on to the last bits we need for this conversion. From the Company Heroes kit, we're going to be taking the fancy Eagle shoulder pad, backpack, and iron halo meant for the company captain. On the Assault Intercessor sprue, we're going to be taking one of the shoulder pads with the larger trim that typically goes on the left arm. Once that is all set, attach the arms to the shoulder pads, attach the iron halo to the backpack, and put the backpack on the torso. During this process, I tried to attach the cape from the Blood Angels captain, but it wouldn't fit with how the body was posed. I tried a few different times and a few different ways to get it on, but eventually I ended up ditching the cape idea. I couldn't find a good way to make it work, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized a cape was probably too regal for a warrior who was supposed to have fallen to the Black Rage. I mean, some poor chapter serf would have to attach that while the captain was trying to rip them limb from limb, screaming about Horus the entire time, and all in all, it is really just more trouble than it's worth. Finally, to finish up the model, I'm going to be using the Death Mask helmet from the Blood Angels Captain Kit. I feel like it really gives the model a haunting look, and it offers me a chance to try something cool during the painting phase that I was really looking forward to. That said, I'm sure the conversion would work with a different head, and there are plenty of great options out there from the normal Space Marine kits or any of the Blood Angels kits, especially the new upgrade sprue. Additionally, if you wanted to go for a death mask but didn't want to use the captain kit, you could easily take one of the heads off the new Sanguinary Guard kit and make it work. Either way, once I attach the helmet, all that's left to do is to paint up the model and apply the decals, leaving us with this. I'm really happy with how this model turned out. I'm kinda bummed I couldn't figure out how to make the cape work, but again, I think the capeless look suits a captain who's supposed to be consumed by the Black Rage, mindlessly rushing into combat. The new advancing pose definitely helps to sell that effect, especially when combined with the Eviscerator. He really looks like he's rushing forward to cut down another foe, and the death mask with the bloody tears turned out even better than I thought it would. I could probably have done more to the model to make it scream Captain, but I think the Iron Halo, Eagle shoulder pad, helmet, fancy sculpted armor details from the Sanguinary Guard, and death mask really makes it clear that this guy is a character. I thought about giving him a tactical rock, give him a little bit of height, and help sell the character idea more, but again, I didn't think posing on a rock fit what was supposed to be a captain rushing into combat. Who knows? You can let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you would have done anything different, or have any ideas for conversions I should do in the future, leave them in the comments. Additionally, I'd appreciate if you could leave a like and share this video on social media. If you liked the video, I release new ones every 2 weeks. So, remember to subscribe and hit the bell to stay in the loop. Anyway, I hope you learned something. And if you didn't, I hope you at least had a good time. Either way, I'll see you next time. This is Rex, signing off.